Hi guys, we are going to go through each of the different things that you need to change in order to update your book and overhaul it so people are more likely to buy it on Amazon. And we're going to start off with categories. So categories are basically like the different departments of the bookstore that Amazon represents. And obviously if you were looking for a book like You Only Live Once, which is a military thriller, that would be in one part of the bookstore, whereas if you're looking for The Cheat Code, which is a non-fiction book about fasting, it would be in another part of the bookstore. And the way Amazon organize these different parts is through categories. So here we go on the homepage of You Only Live Once. We scroll down to product details and you can see it is listed in these three categories. And if we are in the cheat code and scroll down, we can see that it is listed in these three categories. Now, first thing that is kind of interesting is the fact that these categories are not the only categories in which your books can be featured. Your books can be featured in up to 10, and I use Publisher Rocket to look at the different categories that your book might be featured in and your competition might be featured in. And to use that, you use their competition analyzer. You click on that and then put in the ASIN of your book. So copy and paste here, go along to here, paste it in. And this gets all the information about my book. And you can see that it is actually listed in, looks like 6 categories in all. And some of them overlap. So it is in military romance for the Kindle store, for the ebooks, and also military romance for the paperback store, the books. Now, that's great. However, as I said, books can be featured in up to 10 different categories, and there are some significant advantages to that. So here we are, once again, on the homepage of You Only Live Once, and if we go through and look through, out of the 3 categories listed here, wow, my book is 1,991,226 in the ranks. That means there are almost 2 million books selling better than this one. So you can see it is definitely in need of an overhaul. If we go through to military romance, which is probably the most appropriate category for my book to be featured in, we'll open it up. And these are the top 100 bestsellers in this category. And then we go to one of the books that looks, kind of similar to mine. Maybe not similar in terms of the cover, because we're going to readdress the cover, but if we look at it in terms of like romantic suspense, here we go. These two by Brittany Sahin, who's a fantastic author, are great. Let's go to Finding His Mark. It's number 4 in that rank, so you can see it's a beast of a book with 1,700 ratings, bestseller in women's adventure fiction. But women's adventure fiction, there we go. That's a category that You Only Live Once, even as a romance book, isn't featured in, and it looks like it might be a good one to go into. And if we scroll down here, you can see, according to the product details, there are only 3 different categories this book is featured in, but we know that isn't true. So let's go and grab the ASIN and go back to Publisher Rocket and do a new search. Paste in the ASIN, search them. Here we go. It's thinking about it, thinking about it, thinking about it. Look at that. According to Publisher Rocket, I can't promise how accurate these results are. Brittany Sahin is making $80,000 in monthly sales from this book. So good for her. And a success that is very well deserved. Let's see the categories. And you can see, lots more categories. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 different categories, including some ones that would be really, really appropriate for my book. So you can see that there is an opportunity for my book to reach a larger audience by being in more categories. And if you go to Publisher Rocket, you can see why that is advantageous. So the information that Publisher Rocket gives you are the different categories this book is included in. The ABSR, which is Amazon bestseller rank, for the number 1 in each of these categories. So in books, which is the paperback books, literature and fiction, action, adventure, romance, the book that is currently at number 1 is number 24 in the entire Amazon bookstore. It must be making on average 656 sales per day. If we wanted to be number 10 in this category, we would have to be at 561 in the overall Amazon rankings and be making about 100 sales per day. Now this is interesting, really, really interesting, because it shows you how easy or difficult it would be to achieve a top 10 bestseller rank or a number 1 bestseller rank in this category. And some categories are more competitive than others, and obviously if you are really going to hit advertising hard and try and publish a bestseller, it makes sense to have your book featured in less competitive categories, because then it is going to take less work to get a number 1 spot. So if you wanted to be number 1 in the Kindle Store, Kindle eBooks romance, contemporary romance category, see, the current number 1 in that category is number 2 in the Amazon bookstore overall. It's the second best-selling book on Amazon. It makes an average of 5,780 sales a day to get to that rank. Now, this is an estimate because it doesn't include Kindle Unlimited page reads, if that's something there, but it's a pretty good estimate. If you want to be number 10 in this category, in contemporary romance on the ebook store, you would have to sell an average of 1,591 books in a single day. So you can see it is a very competitive category to be in. But if you go down to Kindle eBooks romance, action, adventure, it's a different story. The number 1 book in action and adventure is actually 104 in the overall Amazon rankings. So it's not even a top 100 book. Makes around 975 sales per day to hold that rank, which, as you can see, is pretty much 20% of what it takes to be number 1 in contemporary romance. And to get to number 10 in there, to have a top 10 book, see, you can be 302 in the overall Kindle store, which is a very achievable goal, and average a daily sales of 329. Now, these rankings disappear and reappear all of the time, because one day one particular author might be hitting something really hard with advertising and get to number 1, and then he might stop advertising and that book might drop down again. But you can see, if you want for one moment in time your book to be number 1 in any of the categories on Amazon, picking the right categories is a major step towards giving yourself an advantage there. So overall, this leaves me with a dilemma of trying to add more categories to my book. And how do you do that? Well, when you first publish your book, let's see, so here we are on my KDP dashboard. We'll go into You Only Live Once. This is the behind the scenes stuff. Scroll down and you can pick your categories here. And when you first publish your book, you can only pick 2 categories. Now up here we've got the keywords that Amazon let you put in. Now, keywords are different to advertising keywords, and these 7 keywords are part of the way Amazon's organic search discovery system will throw up your book in organic search results. One of the ways it used to do that was by tying specific keywords to specific categories. So, for example, the reason that You Only Live Once is featured in military romance isn't because I selected military romance when I published it, because that wasn't an option. The only way you could drill down into vaguely that area was by going romance to suspense. I found that by including romance and military in my keywords here, and also in the title of the book it is listed as a bad boy military romance, and that told Amazon to throw this book into the military romance category. But this is kind of a scattergun system, and also it's completely falling apart at the moment because Amazon is introducing thousands of new categories, and it's also introducing new ways of books being directed into those different categories. So what I would recommend doing, first of all, is identifying the 10 different categories that you want your book featured in, and to do that you'll have to do some detective work. And one way of doing that is going to a book that is doing really well in the same sort of categories that you want to be in, and looking at the different categories that this book is included in that your book isn't, and making a list of those. And another way to do it is the old-fashioned way, by going to the Kindle store on the dashboard, and you can see these are like the different shelves in a bookstore. So you've got Kindle Store, which is the overall Kindle store. If we go down to Kindle eBooks, this takes us to all of these different types of books, and we scroll down, and let's see, we want to look in the romance category, and there are actually a ton of different romantic categories that my book might be a good match for. So for example, action and adventure, that would be a great category for my book to be featured in. So what we want to do is tell Amazon that we want You Only Live Once to be included in a bunch of different categories. And as I said, you used to be able to do that with these keywords, but that was kind of a scattergun approach. Now you do it the direct way. And that means you go to your KDP Direct Publishing dashboard, you scroll all the way down and click here at the bottom where it says Contact Us. This will open up a page here where you can, how can we help? You click Amazon product page and expand distribution, and then click update Amazon categories. And Amazon will autofill an email that you can send off to get your book featured in the correct number of categories. Now, this is slightly more complicated than it appears because you need to give them some very specific information and you need to give it very specific to each edition of the book. So the first thing we need to do is tell Amazon which book it is. So we are using You Only Live Once. We grab the ASIN and then we go back to the email that they auto-populated. Boom. That is the book. Now, marketplace. We want to update the categories in the Amazon.com marketplace. So we have to put .com. And the reason for this is if we open up this book in the British store, for example, if we go to co.uk and scroll down, it's actually in different categories. The British Amazon has different categories to the American Amazon, and it's the same for the German Amazon and for the Australian Amazon and for the Canadian Amazon. So when you send Amazon this email, you have to specify that it's for Amazon.com, and then you have to send them another message about .co.uk and .au and .ca, which is the Canadian one. And you'll have to remember that these ranks are different. So you will have to go through. This is the Amazon.co.uk Kindle store. And you can see that things are different. They don't even have an ebook section. They just have books. And if we scroll down to romance, you can see that a lot of the romance categories that exist in the .com store, like African American, don't exist here. So you're going to have to send a completely different message to Amazon about which categories you want your book featured in the UK and Australia and Canada. Look, I'll be honest, you could do it for every single Amazon store. I do it for .com and .co.uk and .au, and I kind of just let the others just do themselves because I only really need to worry about those particular English-speaking markets. Right. Back we go to this email that we are formulating for Amazon, and we've got the ASIN, we've got the store that we want, and then what we need to do is put in the different categories. Nothing is ever simple. We can't just put romance. We have to put the entire breadcrumb of the category that it's in. So what do I mean by that? Well, if we are in, here we go, the Amazon.com bestsellers for military romance, that means we need to put in Kindle ebooks, romance, military romance. And fortunately, Publisher Rocket does this for us. So we can see this is one of the categories we want the book to be in. We can just paste it in there. And then Publisher Rocket will give us, let's see, these two are absolutely appropriate categories for the book to be in. And action and adventure, that works. But then if we want to have the other categories that we want featured, like we saw some good ones like women's adventure fiction here in Brittany Sahin's book, we're going to have to go through that breadcrumb here and find out where it is. So actually what we need to do is go to the Kindle store, Kindle ebooks, action adventure, women's adventure. And this is again where Publisher Rocket can really come in handy, because if we go in and look at the search results that it brings up for our competitors' books, we can go in and just grab those breadcrumbs straight from there. We can go through the same thing with the cheat code. So here we are on the homepage of the cheat code. We can grab the ASIN and we can see the three categories that's currently listed: 90-minute health and fitness, weight maintenance diets, weight loss diets. We can then throw in the ASIN and see how many categories it actually gets listed in. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So these are all good, but could it be listed in any other categories? Let's go through to the top 100 weight maintenance diets. And interestingly enough, the first book, number 1, is The Obesity Code. Mine is the cheat code. This is The Obesity Code. This is by Dr. Jason Fung. Dr. Jason Fung is one of the foremost authorities on intermittent fasting. So basically, this is the book that my book wishes it could be. And one of the reasons why I'd never updated the cheat code is simply the fact that books like this exist. Why am I writing a book called The Cheat Code when pretty much everything in it is contained in this book? Not only is it all contained in this book, it's also written by a man who has incredible authority on it, whereas I'm just a bloke who lost some weight through intermittent fasting. But that aside, let's scroll through and see this wonderful book. You can see it's number 1 bestseller in weight loss diets. Let's grab the ASIN, go through to Publisher Rocket, do a new search, see what categories this book is in. And you can see it is featured in a full 10 categories, and we can go through and basically steal the breadcrumbs when we send an email to Amazon to update the categories for this non-fiction book. And if you are ever wondering, which categories to put your book into, looking at books that are similar is a really, really good idea. So look through the top 100 things, and I can't really go wrong with the Obesity Code. For the cheat code, this book is like perfect. Okay, so for You Only Live Once, here we go. I've finished off this email to Amazon, and as I said, yeah, you've got to put in the ASIN, then you've got to put the marketplace, which is going to be .com or .co.uk, and these are the categories that I've selected, and you can look at them. The interesting thing is perhaps that I put 4 categories for the paperback books and 6 categories for the ebooks, because I intend to send both. And it was nice to be able to put in things like women's adventure, action adventure romance, mystery and suspense romance. These are categories that my book wasn't featured in before, and now it is featured in them, and hopefully this means my book is going to have a little extra visibility. So for the cheat code, I'm going to do exactly the same thing. Send a message to Amazon with the 10 breadcrumbs listed for the 10 categories that I want this book to be featured in, and we will hopefully receive an email in a few days confirming that those categories have been changed, and then we will be able to check that using Publisher Rocket when we put in the ASIN. So here we go. I actually only sent this email an hour ago, and Amazon has already sent me back this email that says they've moved my book into all of these different categories. That's fantastic, right? So that is how you update categories. This is definitely not something that you should overlook or take for granted, because it can make a big difference when you really start getting good at launching books and really start getting a significant number of people actually reading them.